and welcome to Scrolling with Ceazor. Today is April 23rd, 2026. I got a lot of news for you today, but as always, this is not financial advice. The charts look okay today. ETH is down about 1.5%, but not more than it was up yesterday. BTC looks very similar to that, but is up. It's just not up as high as it went yesterday. Gold is up a tiny bit, but it's down on the week. And then we've got Hype, which is up, but it is also down on the week. And S, which is up about 2%, but again, down on the week, and it's bouncing around at the bottom. So let's get into the tweets. So first of all, we have a nice long article by Etherealize on why Ethereum will go to $250,000 per ETH. Now, I always see these numbers and I think, it's a little too bullish. You never know, but it seems pretty high. But reading through this article, it's a long read. So if you want to read it, you can read it. But I've kind of got a small TLDR for you on it. So basically, the key thesis of this thing is that Ethereum is productive money. So number one, it has staking yield in it. Number two is it doesn't have as much of a Lindy effect of gold or Bitcoin, but it does have a pretty good one. And as time progresses, that Lindy effect will increase. The other one is it has staking to secure the network, whereas compared to Bitcoin secures the network through issuance only, but that issuance halving is reducing its security every time it does a halving, right? So Ethereum doesn't have that problem. It's not going to have a problem with paying off the people who are securing the network. However, that it is an inflationary coin. The burning can reduce inflation, and it has in the past. It has been deflationary in the past, but currently right now it's not quite that way. So that's pretty much the key gist of it in a lot of words. You can definitely read it and see all the other points. I might have skipped a few here or there, but anyhow, it's a long article for you to check out. Okay, so Frax Finance has retweeted that Boardwalk is a new launchpad coming to Fraxtal chain. I'm happy to see that some projects are building on Fraxtal. I have Fraxtal points, and I've been farming them for a long time, and I hope they eventually become something of utility, or even better, something of financial value. Now, Boardwalk seems to me, I haven't dug really deep, but it seems to me to be a token launchpad. Okay. Now, I'm not a big fan of token launchpads because they encourage the opposite of what I want. What they encourage is selling the token, then building the product. But what I want to see more is products being built, verified, and then when you buy the token, you know what the product is already, and maybe it's even live, right? I prefer this model over the let's sell our tokens and then we'll build what we say we're going to build, because that tends to take much longer, because they already have the money and they want their salaries every day or every month or whatever. And I just don't like the model of launch a token, then build a product. Now, I'm not saying that that's what this does. I haven't done a deep dive on this, but, launchpads generally are that, launch your token here, earn some finances, get some treasury, and then use that treasury to build your product. Now, there are some things in here, of course, like locked liquidity, protected fees, some transparency on vesting and stuff like that. So it is a little bit more. It's not just like a pump fund, but it is it's still a token first, product second type thing, right? Moving on. So here we have ETH Strategy is retweeting that Etherealize article that I read. It's a good read, so I would highly suggest you check it out. Moving on, so here we have BSCN. I don't know what that is, but I saw this and I was like, oh, okay, let me read through this, okay? So it's Andre Cronje's Flying Tulip idea, but what he says here, what they're saying here is that he's put out something or in the product, a flying tulip, that has a circuit breaker. So basically, take a look at, I'll read this. The system rate limits fund outflows during abnormal withdrawal activity. It is designed to detect patterns linked to exploits or coordinated attacks. So I've said this for a long time. Every time there's like a big hack, or like, and we're talking about freezing funds and stuff like that. I think it's pretty clear, that like, tokens and projects can freeze enormous withdrawals. Like if suddenly a wallet, like for example, like USDC, if suddenly a wallet just gets $200 million deposited in it, I think it would be acceptable for Circle to immediately freeze that $200 million and investigate for like 20 minutes or something like that, and then unfreeze it. If they don't know, if they can verify that it's not an exploit, or that they're not certain, they can just unfreeze it. So that's kind of what's going on here. Now they're talking more about like his flying tulip product, what happens to be like have a lending market inside it. So if an enormous amount of withdrawal comes out of the system, then the circuit breaker should kick in. Now the circuit breaker should have some whitelisting abilities as well. Like if you're a protocol like Yearn and you're depositing 50 million into there, you want to be able to pull out immediately, but it's going to be pulling out into the smart contract, the Yearn smart contract. So that Yearn smart contract will be whitelisted to be able to pull that out and stuff like this, like I would think. Anyhow, so I thought that's pretty cool, and I thought it was worth sharing. So over to talk about the Arbitrum freezing token stuff. So Block Enthusiast says, so if the Security Council has chain owner privileges, they can transfer ownership from the DAO, of the DAO from the token. The admin roles can add or remove owners. So the way I understand this right now is like all of the L2s basically can do anything. Like anything's possible. They can, like, I'm not saying they will do that, because Arbitrum's got that 7 of 12, so they'd have to convince 7 people to basically do something malicious or immoral or something like that. So that the likelihood of it happening is very low, but it's not impossible, right? That's my point here. They can pretty much do anything, because they can just upgrade the contract and change it. It's a proxy. They can add anything, they can remove anything, they can change the state, they can that's the way I understand it. I could be wrong, I could be missing something very key, but it's definitely the case. Right now, if you go through the different L2s and you look at how many people they need to upgrade their proxy contract, that makes a significant difference, right? Like if they only need 2 people, that's way more scary than if they need 7 people, right? And those 7 people are not just like they're distributed. Like the Security Council at Arbitrum is distributed across the world and by like pretty well-known people. Okay, like not most of them. I think most of them, if not all of them, are doxed as well. So there is that, right? But anyhow, I just wanted to clarify that. And Gabriel Shapiro Lexnode wrote a long article here on his stances of it. Now, you go into this, like you can read through this. It's a pretty good read. It geeks out a lot, as you can see, he's like quoting a lot of law stuff in here. But it basically, like, he's not saying what Arbitrum did was wrong and they shouldn't have froze the funds. What he's saying is they have the ability to freeze the funds. They probably should have froze the funds because they have the ability to do so. But let's compare that to what happens in the legal world, in the corporate world, in like PayPal. He uses PayPal as an example. PayPal has a lot of legal frameworks that they need to follow, things they need to do, such as notification of your freezing. If they don't charge you with some sort of like litigation, then they have to return the funds. But like in Arbitrum's case, in the Security Council, they don't have any of this framework in place already. So like he's like saying, if we're going to run Arbitrum like this kind of thing, like PayPal, we're better off with PayPal because PayPal has a huge legal framework already in place that forces them to do things and follow rules in a certain way, whereas Arbitrum doesn't have this quite yet. And that's kind of the point he wants to make. Again, it's a long article. You want to read through it, I would suggest you to read through it. It's a pretty good geek out from a lawyer and his thoughts on it. I don't think he's wrong in this case. I would prefer that, the L2s were actual, immutable L2s, but, that's the way things are right now. And here is Millie kind of just retweeting the same idea that, if a Security Council can freeze funds related to a hack, they can and will be expected to free funds related to a divorce settlement or a tax debt. Okay, so that's kind of the point. They've opened the can of worms. Pandora's box is open, and now we have to demand as users that L2s transition from this ability, or they need to have a clear framework, clear set of rules that we can understand what we're putting ourselves into, the situations we're putting ourselves into. Okay, moving on. So Michael Ergonov, he's retweeting out this thought that there's this Giddy Vault that got exploited. And basically, it's looking like admin key compromise. So another probably phish attack or a social engineering attack. They lost the admin keys. And Giddy Vault is, I don't know what it is, but it's a product built on top of Yield Basis. So Tulip Capital and Hypernative Labs, they found out that there were some strange things happening on Yield Basis and money was being moved around. And they notified Michael, and Michael looked into it, and Yield Basis is completely safe, right? It's the third-party vault that was built on top of Yield Basis has some sort of issue. So you can look into that and find out what's going on there. Okay, so back to Arbitrum stuff. So this is Davish. He's part of the Ethereum Foundation, and he tweets out this today. He's like, Arbitrum recovery of hacked funds shows that code is law. And I replied to him, I said, isn't this the opposite of code is law? Is this a pun? And he's like, no, because Arbitrum coded in the procedure for humans to act in an emergency. And then I said, I disagree with that. It wasn't a code admin. It was a change of the code. They upgraded the contracts, changed the code. So they basically changed the law. They wrote, so what he's saying is they wrote the code so that they could change the law. Not they wrote the code that is the law. So I disagree with him on this. I think he's, I don't know. I don't know if he's pandering, if he's engagement farming and just trying to get people to rage on him and stuff. But to me, it seems like he's wrong completely. But maybe I'm missing something clear, but that's the way I feel. Okay, so the RS exploit. Here is a Gauntlet doing like a little postmortem, and it is show they did have some exposure to this RS vaults, right? But they had it completely contained into certain vaults, and their major vaults were not exposed to this RS. And he's like, Gauntlet's 50 plus Morpho vaults incurred no bad debt, and users experienced no losses from the exploit. So I think that's pretty good. I think that's great. I've got recently I've got this distaste for curators in the space because of, stream finance and all of these kind of, why aren't they checking things, right? And this is a case too, like why didn't the curator find out that REs only had a 101 DVN, right? A 101 bridge risk, right? So, but they were still exposed to them. So why they didn't check it? They did say some reasons why they weren't heavily exposed to it. Let me see where I can find it. I don't want to dig while I'm recording, so I'm just going to skip on. So they basically, they didn't have enough liquidity. Oh, here it is, right? They didn't qualify for allocation to the conservative prime vaults due to thinner liquidity, heavier LP concentration, and a shorter track record. So it doesn't say anything in here that, we assessed the DVNs and found out that the DVNs were only one of one. So that's kind of what we want from these people. They're the curators. They're the risk profiles. They should be the ones doing the heavy deep diving on stuff and checking all of the possible things. But, maybe it was an unknown vector. Alternatively, we have Mello here. So Mello is the manager of this Earn ETH multi-volt on Lido. So it's basically a Lido Vault sponsored by Lido. You can deposit in this on the Lido Finance website. And so they are exposed to this. Okay, so they have been working hard to try to get out of this like RS leverage since April 18th, and they're still stuck inside it. Okay, now there are a lot of teams that are kind of still stuck inside this like leveraged up RS ETH exposure, and they're basically, we will reopen when there's clarity on the RS resolution. So they're trying to figure out what's going to happen with Aave, what's going to happen with RS ETH, what's going to happen with the Arbitrum recovery of that ETH. When all that stuff is said and done, then they will allow people to start withdrawing again. Now, Wavy has produced a aave.wavy.info tracking dashboard. You can check it out. It does show something significant here. So I don't know which one of these, Mello Finance, which one is the Earn Vault. But this one does say, collateral RS ETH. And this one says WST ETH. So it's probably that. But as you can see, both of them are burning about, $20,000 to $35,000 a day. 12 to and 30. So both of them are burning like 40,000, total they're burning about $50,000 worth of money a day because of their leveraged loops, and they're not able to get out. So as you can see, this is a pretty cool liquidation. You can go through here and try to find some stuff you might be exposed to, but as you can see, the vast majority of them are individual wallets. But there are quite a few here that might be at risk of being liquidated, and as you can see, the health factor of some of them. Now the Mello one's looking a little bit scary, both of them. So I hope they can get out of this, and because I am actually deposited in one of these. So anyhow, I think they're both actually the Volt. I think the Volt is both of these strategies, and it just has some exposure to both of these tokens. But anyways, that's it for today. I hope this has been interesting and useful, and thank you for watching, and goodbye.